I came home after school and the house was completely empty. No call, no message, just a crumpled piece of paper left on the kitchen counter. You'll figure it out on your own. I was 17, and from that moment on, I no longer had a family. Welcome to True Reddit Stories. In today's video, you'll hear a story that will make you question everything's loyalty and the real cost of turning your back on your own blood. From a child abandoned with nothing I had to survive, fight, and grow up. Not for anyone else, but for myself. And 12 years later, when they tried to come back into my life, I was ready to say, thank you, but I don't need you anymore. Chapter 1. I came home, and everything was gone. I still remember that day clearly. The day my life took a completely different turn. Not because of some earth-shattering event, but because of absolute silence. I had just finished my shift at the pizza joint, my body reeking of tomato sauce, frying oil, and a hint of burnt-up self-respect. On the way home, I muttered to myself, if my life were a dish, it'd have been sent back for being cold and tasteless. But I had no idea. That night would be the last time I'd ever call that place home. I slid the key into the lock. It didn't turn. I frowned. For the first time in 17 years of living there, the lock had been changed. I tried again. Still nothing. I knocked. No one answered. I called my mom. Number does not exist. I called my dad. Blocked. I called my little brother, the one who once borrowed $100 from me to buy basketball shoes. Also blocked. That's when it started to creep in. That cold, sharp feeling crawling into my bones. Not just fear, but something worse. The realization that I had been left behind. On purpose. And then I saw it. A piece of paper taped with torn masking tape on the old wooden door, the same door that used to hold my mom's handmade Christmas wreath. Just one messy line, don't look for us, you'll figure it out. I stood there, under the porch, in the middle of the night. No explanation, no one turning back, no goodbye. I stepped back, staring at the house, the place where I used to bake Christmas cookies with Mom, where Dad taught me how to change my first light bulb, where I got scolded for ditching class to see a movie with my friends. Now, it was just a cold, lifeless block of concrete. No warmth, no trace of family. I had been thrown away. No more, no less. And I knew right then and there, no one was coming to save me. No one was waiting for me to come home anymore. And that night, I died as a child. And the next morning, I woke up as a stranger to the world. Chapter 2, Starting Below Zero. Think starting from zero is hard. I started from negative infinity. No home, no family, not even an identity. Because my parents didn't even bother leaving behind my documents. That night, I slept at the bus stop near our old house, on a cold, plastic bench, next to a homeless man, whispering to himself and an old woman chain-smoking like she was training for the Lung Olympics. I clutched my backpack, the only thing I still owned. Inside a grease-stained work uniform, a torn-up student notebook, and $27 in cash. That was my startup capital for a brand new life. The next morning, I woke up before dawn. Not out of ambition or strength, but because of the mosquitoes. I walked to the pizza shop where I still had my part-time job. Nobody there knew I had just been thrown out by my family. And I didn't plan to tell them. I had to hold on to the last piece of my put-together mask. While scrubbing the floors and scouring the fryer, my mind spun through 100 scenarios. Hey, don't worry. Find a cheap motel, crash there for a few nights. Figure it out later. Ask a friend to let me stay over. No, who would take in someone their own parents threw away. I knocked on a few classmates' doors. One mom answered, looked me up and down, then said, "Didn't your mom call me?" "Oh, sorry, but our place isn't really convenient." Yeah, not convenient for housing a stray. Eventually, I found an old boarding house about 4 kilometers from my work. The landlord was a grumpy Filipino uncle in his 60s, but He still seemed to have some shred of humanity left. I begged him to let me move into a 9 square meter room, no windows. I promised I'd pay in 3 days. He stared at me for a long, long time, then finally said, "No drugs, no boyfriends, and no crying your lungs out at night." I had one of those before. I nodded, part thankful, part amused. Honestly, all I wanted at that point was a bed. 3 days later, I paid the rent with tips and overtime pay. I started learning how to live without anyone watching over me. No one reminded me to eat breakfast. No one asked, "Are you okay?" No more yelling in the kitchen, just the ticking ceiling fan and the neighbor's late night radio humming through the walls. I survived, but the price was I had to learn how to forget what it felt like to have a family, or at least pretend I never did. Chapter 3, 12 years, and a strange call. I don't think I ever really got over what happened. I just learned how to live without carrying the weight of the past. 12 years passed. I lived in a world I built for myself from broken pieces. I worked, went back to school, graduated from community college with a degree in graphic design thanks to scholarships, and 3 years of eating instant noodles until my blood pressure dropped. I rented a tiny apartment in the city, raised a fat cat, and played indie music when life got too heavy. I had no close friends, never attended class reunions, and of course had no family on Facebook. I was fine. Not perfect, but fine. Until one Monday morning at exactly 9:03 a.m., my phone rang, unknown number. I didn't pick up. Unless it was a Shopee delivery, any call at that hour usually meant trouble. But then they called again, a second time, a third. I finally answered, ready to go off, if it turned out to be a scam. "Hello, is that you, sweetie?" A woman's voice, shaky and eerily familiar. I held my breath. No way. I looked at the screen again, no name displayed, but my heart felt like it had just been crushed in someone's fist. "It's Mom. I I know you're angry, but I just wanted to hear your voice." I hung up immediately. No words, no reaction. I just stared into the void like someone had just ripped open every layer of skin I'd spent the last decade building up. 3 hours later, I got a text. "Your father is sick. Very sick. I'm sorry for what happened. Can we talk?" I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was just laughably tragic. The same people who left me like trash on the side of the road now wanted to talk. I didn't reply right away. I spent a week thinking. Not because I hadn't forgiven them, but because I honestly wasn't sure if I even had enough emotion left to hate them anymore. And then I agreed to meet, not because they deserved it, but because I needed to look them in the eyes to confirm something. I was no longer that abandoned 17-year-old girl. I was a woman they didn't know and could never control again. Chapter 4, the first meeting, and a belated apology. I chose to meet them at a cafe near the Central Hospital, not at their house, not at mine, because I didn't want anyone to get the illusion that the family was back together. I arrived 10 minutes early, chose a seat by the window, ordered an espresso. My heart was pounding like I was about to interview for a job, with the very people who once dumped me on the street without a single word. And then they arrived. My mother looked much older than I remembered. Her hair was completely white, her eyes sunken, wearing a sweater that looked 2 sizes too big on a body shriveled by time. And my father, the man who had once coldly stood behind the decision to leave me behind, was now in a wheelchair. He looked genuinely ill. His left arm trembled slightly. I didn't get up, didn't hug, didn't nod. I looked at them like two strangers and asked bluntly, "What do you want?" No pleasantries, no pretending. My mother bit her lip and set her purse down. I I don't know where to start, but We were wrong, very wrong. I laughed, coldly. Wrong. You call leaving a 17-year-old girl behind with a handwritten note, no phone call, no message, not a single dime, wrong. She nodded. Her eyes welled up. I I had a breakdown. At the time we were drowning in debt, your father lost his job. I was depressed, Emo. I wasn't thinking straight. I didn't know what else to do. So the solution was to throw me away. What about my little brother? My little sister? You took them with you. I stopped because my voice started to crack. My dad spoke for the first time in over a decade. It's not that you didn't matter. It's just that we thought you were strong enough to make it on your own. That sentence, I swear, almost made me flip my chair and walk out. Oh, thank you. I was the only one you felt deserved to be abandoned. Thank you for having so much faith in me. That I got to sleep at a bus stop, wash dishes to survive, and live like someone nobody wanted. Thank you, my mother cried. And honestly, I felt nothing. I had cried hundreds of times, alone, in a moldy rental room, in public restrooms, on the night bus at 11 p.m., and she cried now. I'm sorry she said it for the first time. After 12 years, a late apology, no flowers, no gifts, just 3 words spoken because she had no other option left. I looked at her, took a breath. I didn't come here for an apology. I came here to look the two of you in the eyes and confirm I survived without you, and I don't owe you anything. I stood up, looked at them one last time. No hug, no kiss on the cheek, not even a handshake. Just a quiet ending to a chapter that should never have existed in the first place. But do you want to know the most ironic part? That meeting was just the warm-up to an even bigger twist. Because 2 weeks later, I received something that stunned me more than that belated apology ever could. A letter from my parents' lawyer. Chapter 5, The Will and a Trap Called Family. 2 weeks after that cold reunion, I received a pale yellow envelope with my name scrawled on it in shaky blue ink. Sender L&M Law Office, representing Mr. Nguyen Hu T and Mrs. Lei Kim D. I opened the letter right there in the elevator, and when I got to the line, Dear Ms. Nguyen H.A., according to the updated will dated June 24th, you have been designated as a joint heir to the family estate. I burst out laughing. Just as the elevator dinged at the 9th floor, a will now, they threw me away like garbage. And now, 12 years later, when their health is failing, they call me back to split assets with them. You think this is some happy ending? No. This was just another performance. And I was the bait. I called the lawyer back. His voice was calm, polished. The kind of voice that's navigated hundreds of messy family reunions. Ms. Our clients have updated their will, and you have been named as co-inheritor of a property worth 4.6 billion VND, as well as a piece of long-term farmland in Bin Duong. Sounds generous, right? But I'm not stupid. So I asked, are there any conditions attached? He hesitated, then read aloud. Yes, according to Appendix B of the will, the designated heir must agree to co-sign as guarantor for the current debt of 1.9 billion VND to Bank P. I laughed, a bitter, sharp laugh. So now the plan was crystal clear. Abandon your daughter 12 years, apologize in 30 minutes, then come back with a will wrapped in a trap. They wanted me to co-sign a nearly 2 billion debt, while the house they're leaving me was already mortgaged. I wasn't being inherited anything. I was being baited into absorbing their debt. I asked, and if I don't sign, then the inheritance will automatically be redistributed to your 2 siblings who are already listed as co-owners. Aha. The 2 siblings who hadn't texted me once since the family vanished when I was 17. I called my sister just to confirm something. I got the letter about the will. Oh, what do you plan to do? Her voice was nervous, barely hiding the anticipation. I'm not signing. You 2 can split it. I hung up. Didn't wait for a reply. Something I used to dream that one day my family would come back and say, "We're sorry. We love you." But it turns out what they loved most was money. And me, I was just the backup piece in their escape plan from debt. That night, I burned the copy of the letter, watched the paper turn to ash in an old porcelain ashtray, and I made a promise to myself. This time, no one is dragging me back. They left me once. Now I will leave them forever. Chapter 6. They left me. But life didn't. I know what you're probably wondering after your family vanished, left you at 17. How did you even survive? The short answer is I lived like a stray dog in the city, but a stray dog that went to college. The first night I came home and saw the locked door, the empty house, not a single note. I sat down on the porch steps, buried my head in my arms, and cried until I couldn't breathe. I didn't know who to call. No close relatives, friends who would believe a 17-year-old saying my family moved out without telling me. No one believed it. They thought I made it up to skip school. I asked for extra night shifts at the pizza shop where I already worked part-time. The manager noticed I'd been sleeping in the storage room for a few nights. He didn't say anything, he just handed me a key and said, "As long as the kitchen's clean, by 6 a.m., I lived in that storage room for 3 months. Ate leftover pizza, drank tap water, went to school in the morning, worked in the afternoon, slept at night, and for an entire year, no one called me daughter. No birthdays. No one congratulated me when I got into college. I worked 2 jobs at once. Daytime, I was a sales clerk. At night, I delivered orders on an app, weekends cleaning houses by the hour. And yet, I survived. I rented a 12 square meter room. I got accepted into a teaching university. I paid my tuition each semester with sweat-soaked, crumpled bills. When friends went out to birthday dinners with their families, I sat alone with instant noodles and borrowed textbooks from the library. When classmates posted pictures of their moms helping with enrollment papers, I stood in line at 5 a.m. outside the school gate asking for a tuition waiver. No one ever called to say, "Don't forget your helmet when you go out." I only had one sentence for myself. "You're not allowed to die. Not yet." I used to envy classmates whose moms cooked them dinner. I used to cry when I saw friends being driven by their dads to buy scooters. But over time, I learned something. Not everyone who gives birth is fit to be called a parent. They gave you life, but that doesn't mean they have the right to crush it and walk away like it meant nothing. I came to understand this family isn't where you're born. It's where you can return without being abandoned. I grew up. I graduated. I became a literature teacher. I now teach kids who are 17 years old, the same age I was when I got left behind, and I swear I will never let a single kid in my class feel abandoned the way I once did. 12 years later, when they came back mumbling apologies, I was no longer that trembling 17-year-old girl on the porch. I was a woman who survived. I was me, and I didn't owe that to anyone. Chapter 7. The Reunion, and an ending that needs no apology. 12 years after the night they left me behind, I got a Facebook message from my mother. Yes, the same mother who didn't see me off when I was born and didn't say goodbye when they disappeared without a trace. The message was short. "I miss you. Can you come home for a visit?" I was going to delete it, but for some reason I kept reading. "Your father is sick. All he wants now is for the family to be together again, and you've always been the most mature one. Right, mature." I understood, all right. I understood at 17 when I was abandoned without a single word. I understood when I never got a single apology. Now they wanted me to come back to the same home where I once cried all night on cold front steps. And for one reason only, because I've made it. I had a stable job, my own home, a voice that mattered, and suddenly they remembered I existed. I agreed to meet, just once. We arranged to meet at a small cafe one I picked. I wanted to control everything, the lighting, the seating, even the way I walked in, like stepping onto a stage. When I arrived, they were already there. My mom, my dad, And my younger sister, the one who had been so spoiled I used to give up my meals for her. They looked older, frailer, but their eyes, still the same, full of expectation and entitlement. My mom spoke first. "How have you been, sweetie? I saw your award mentioned in the school newsletter." I nodded, didn't smile, didn't ask how she was. Then came the main act. "Your dad has heart problems. We don't know how long he has left. Things are tough at home. You're a teacher now, you can probably help out a little, right?" I took a sip of water, set the glass down, and looked straight at them. "When you left me behind, you left a note. You'll figure it out." And I did. "Now it's your turn." The silence was so thick I could hear the ice melt in my glass. My mom's tone shifted. "Don't be so ungrateful. We're still blood after all." I chuckled, softly, calmly. Blood that disappears without a word. Blood that leaves me eating spoiled pizza in a storage room, sleeping next to a mop. I'm not ungrateful. I'm just giving back. The way I was taught. The way this family taught me at 17. They went silent. There was nothing left to say. I stood up, placed money on the table. "When you left, I didn't get a chance to say goodbye, so let me be the one to end things this time." I turned my back. Didn't cry, didn't regret it. I just thought to myself, sometimes the best thing you can do for the past is let it die standing where it is, for narration or storytellings. Chapter 8. I don't need a blood family. I built the one I wanted. There's one thing they'll never understand. Family isn't the people who gave birth to you. It's the people who never leave even when they have every reason to. After that final meeting, I never messaged them again. I didn't post about them. Didn't speak badly about them. I just vanished from their lives the same way they once vanished from mine. And then I started choosing everything for myself. A small apartment full of sunlight, with bookshelves, and a sofa I bought after 3 months of tutoring. A little cafe where the owner remembers I like iced milk, coffee, no sugar. A stray cat I named Hope, because she showed up right when I needed hope the most. And all the people, friends, mentors, co-workers who quietly slipped a lunchbox into my hands, handed me an umbrella, or gave me a silent hug when I couldn't speak through my tears. They weren't family in the traditional sense, but they chose me. Not because of blood, not for appearances, but because I was me. One time, while cleaning out an old drawer, I stumbled across that piece of paper from years ago. The same jagged writing, "You'll figure it out." At first, I wanted to tear it to shreds, but instead, I did the opposite. I laminated it, framed it, and hung it on the wall above my desk as a symbol, not of pain, but of origin. Because if they hadn't left me that day, I might never have realized I don't need anyone to give me a chance. I can make one myself. I don't need parents to teach me how to live. I learned through their abandonment. And I don't need an apology to forgive. I only need freedom, and I've earned that. Now, when one of my students asks me, "Miss, have you ever hated your parents?" I just smile and say, "No, sweetie, I'm grateful, because they taught me not everyone deserves to be called home." You know what? When I was a kid, I used to think family is everything. But when you're the only one fighting for yourself, when they disappear without a single goodbye, you learn this family isn't the people who gave birth to you. It's the people who choose to stay, even when things get hard. I don't need them to prove my worth, because I lived on my own, stood back up on my own, and built a life they never thought I deserved. Thank you for listening to today's story. If you've ever been hurt by the people closest to you, I hope my story gives you this: you can start over, and you can create the family you choose.